I'm about to show you how your house just stole $3 million from your retirement. Same person, same income, and the same 35 years, but one choice that flipped everything. And the math on this is so clear that you will never look at your mortgage payment the same way. Because the truth is, while you're building equity, someone else is building wealth that they can actually spend in retirement. And while you're busy being responsible, they are getting ahead. And the scariest part about this is that most folks are going to make this choice without ever having seen or run the real numbers. They're following advice from the 1950s in a 2025 economy. And so this is not going to be just another rent versus buying video. I'm going to challenge everything you believe about home ownership with math that is so clear you will never see your house the same way again. What's up, everybody? I'm Rashida and I'm your guide to smart money moves. I started my wealth building journey at the young age of 17, became a millionaire in my 40s, and I managed to do this all on a police officer's salary. And so I'm on a mission to bust the biggest money myths out there and show you how you can turn your income into real wealth. So let's go. Now, here's what no one likes to talk about. We have been programmed since childhood to believe that home ownership equals success. Think about it. Every movie, every TV show, every story we grew up with told us the same thing. But here is what those shows never mentioned: the hidden costs and the opportunity costs and the financial reality that comes after you get those keys. In America, we have all been sold the idea that rent is throwing away your money, and that if you're going to pay for housing, you might as well keep the money. But this thinking has a fundamental flaw that I'm about to expose. And so if you're with me, do me a favor, drop a house down in that comment section and let's dive in. Now, there's a saying in personal finance that when you are paying rent, that is the most that you are going to pay to live there. And when you are paying for a house, your mortgage is the least amount that you're going to pay to live there. And so this part right here is just the beginning, because you're going to have other costs like property taxes, maintenance, repairs, HOA fees, insurance, renovations eventually. And what most people don't realize before they make their home purchase is that these phantom costs are going to add an additional 30 to 50% of your housing expenses over the long period of time. And here's the kicker: none of that money builds equity. And so let me give you a real example. A friend of mine just bought a house 6 months ago, and within the first 14 days of living there, he had to spend an extra $4,000 on unexpected maintenance and repairs. $4,000 in 2 weeks. And so that is not helping you to build wealth. That is just money disappearing into the walls of the house. And despite what HGTV wants you to believe, renovations don't give you a positive return. In fact, according to industry data, renovations only return about 70% of your investment on average. And so that beautiful kitchen remodel, you're losing 30% of that money immediately. But the hidden costs actually go much deeper than just money, because there's something called opportunity costs that you really need to understand. And this is where things are going to get interesting. And so let me show you two people from Atlanta, Georgia, back in 1990. Both people have $40,000 to work with. So same city, same time period, same starting point. Person A is going to use that $40K as a down payment on a $200,000 house. Person B is going to take a different route. They are going to rent a similar place and invest their $40,000 into a simple S&P 500 index fund. And now here is what most people are going to think given that scenario. They're probably going to think something like this: Grandma bought a house for $100,000 and then sold it for $1 million. She made $900,000 profit on that transaction. But that's just like saying the bigger number minus the smaller number equals the profit. And that is wrong. That's way too simplistic for the biggest purchase that you're going to make. And so let's fast forward to 2025 to see how our 1990s families wound up 35 years later. Now, person A, our homeowner, is going to make a total of $580,000 in total mortgage payments, interest, property taxes, maintenance over that 35-year time period. Now, that same house today is going to have an estimated value of around $660,000. I mean, it looks like they did pretty darn good, right? Now, because people just love to think about their house as an investment, you then must subtract all of the costs associated with buying and keeping that investment, because that is called a cost basis. How much did you actually pay out to have and hold this investment? Now, after you subtract that number, you have what you call net equity. And so person A's net equity is going to be only $86,400. And this figure doesn't even factor in inflation over that 35-year period. Now let's take a look at the opportunity cost for owning this home by looking at how person B came out. Now person B, our renter, ends up paying over $362,000 in rent payment over that same time period. But that $40,000 investment they made in the S&P 500, instead of using it as a down payment on a house, grew into $3.5 million over that time span. And so the renter clearly comes out ahead when we're talking about an investment perspective. And now let me make this a little more real for you. Now that $3 million that they have grown in wealth, which is actually liquid during their retirement, unlike a home, if they spread that money out over 30 years during their retirement, they are looking at an extra $8,300 in their pocket every single month for the next 30 years. Just think about what you could do with an extra $8,000 per month in retirement. That would cover all of your living expenses in most cities in this country, or luxury travel a few times a year, or paying for your kids' college education, or even better, complete financial freedom to do what you want when you want. Now that calculation blew your mind. Do me a favor, hit the like button and drop a money bag emoji down in that comment section. Now this may seem impossible if you're someone making $50,000 or $60,000 a year, but here's the thing. This strategy works at every income level. If you're making between $40,000 and $60,000, that $1,000 difference between renting and home buying, because remember, when you rent, you're not paying all those phantom costs. If you are investing that $1,000 consistently over those 30 years, you're going to have $1.3 million at the end of that road, given just average market returns. Now, if you're making between $60,000 and $100,000 per year, you have even more wiggle room, because your difference in monthly payments over the long term could be between $1,500 and $2,000 per month, which would shake out to be between $2 and $3 million in additional wealth. And if you're someone making over $100,000 per year, you have the most flexibility, but you also have the most to lose by having capital tied up in your house instead of investments, because the math is going to scale with your income. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that the principle stays the same. Your house traps your money while investments multiply it. And I know that these calculations may feel overwhelming, especially if you're someone just trying to figure out what makes sense for your specific situation. Hey guys, just a quick note here. In today's complex financial world, making smart decisions with your money has never been more important. And so that is why I've teamed up with Money.com. Money.com is your trusted guide to financial clarity. And their mission is super simple. It's to help you become financially smarter through research-backed recommendations on everything from high-yield savings accounts that actually help you to grow your money to finding insurance rates that won't break the bank. Their expert team does a phenomenal job cutting through all of the noise out there to bring you honest and actionable advice that works for real people, not just the pros. So make sure you check out my links in the description to see how Money.com can help you transform your financial future, because we know on this channel, when it comes to your money, knowledge truly is power. All right, let's get back to our video. Now, I can already hear the comments, and if you have thoughts on this, drop them in the comment section, because I want to hear where everybody stands on this debate. All right, people are going to be down in that comment section saying, but my house doubled in value, or my uncle made $500,000 or $700,000 on his house. But here's the thing, that is not all profit, you guys. That is the part that I need you to understand. And let me prove this to you with some very simple math. If your house goes up in value 5% per year, that's actually a little bit more than the average real estate return over the long period. And you're paying 2% in property taxes, 1% in maintenance, and 1% in all other costs. Your real return on that is 1% per year. Meanwhile, the stock market has returned 10% on average per year with zero maintenance costs. The only cost associated with this investment is going to be pre or post taxes, okay? And whatever the fund fee is, which if you're in an S&P 500 index fund, it is a fraction of 1%. Now, if you've never researched this before, over about 100 years, there's great research to show that real estate has essentially barely outpaced inflation. And I know this must be mind-boggling because you see that someone bought a house for $100,000 and sold it for $1 million. And of course, you're going to think that's $900,000 of profit. But just know that when you hear someone talking like that they have not properly factored in inflation, opportunity costs, and hidden costs associated with home ownership. And the second reason why you really don't want to think of your home as an investment is because to access any of that equity or any of that profit, you have to sell the house or borrow against it. And so if you sell that house, you still need somewhere to live, okay? So it's not like you are taking all of that profit and it's just yours to spend, however you want on lavish vacations or lifestyle things. You got to pay for somewhere to live. And if you think that you're going to buy a house in that same area, guess what? All of the real estate in that area probably went up too. So you're not coming out ahead in any way, shape, or form. And if you decide that you just want to cash in some of that equity and stay in your home, guess what? You're going to have to take out a home equity loan. So you're going to be paying interest on money that was supposedly yours to begin with. Do you understand what I'm trying to help you wrap your mind around? And the third thing you want to keep in mind is that not all real estate markets go up. Just ask anyone who bought a home in Detroit in 2005 for $150,000 and their house was valued at $30,000 by 2010. Or talk to a home buyer out in San Francisco right now who bought a house in just 2022 and have seen their multi-million-dollar condos lose 20% of its value. There's an element of luck involved in real estate locations that no one likes to talk about. Just know that because it's likely, it is not guaranteed that your house is going to appreciate in value. But the stock market over any 20-year period in history, it's never lost money. And so that right there is an argument for being in a broad index fund instead of picking individual stocks. Now, one of the biggest lies in personal finance that you often hear and that I grew up hearing is that renting is throwing money away. And if you're renting right now, I need you to understand that you're not throwing money away because rent does buy you something incredibly valuable. It's going to afford you things like flexibility, liquidity, and the ability to move for better opportunities. You're not going to have any maintenance headaches and you're not going to have any surprise bills associated with living there. But most importantly, rent is going to free up capital for you to invest in assets that actually grow. So you can think about it this way. Your house is like buying an expensive car. It serves a purpose, it might make you happy, but don't expect it to make you rich. When you rent, you are not throwing money away. You are buying housing as a service while your real wealth grows in investments. And so here is the biggest mind shift that changed everything for me. Stop thinking about monthly payments and start thinking about opportunity costs, because every dollar that is tied up in your home is a dollar that cannot compound in the stock market. Now, be honest with me. Tell me your biggest concern about this strategy. Drop it in the comments below. I want to hear what you have to think about this. Now, look, I'm not saying to never buy a house. I have been a homeowner myself. This is not a knock on home ownership because it has lots of benefits. All right, so let's look at some of the benefits. First, you do have some tax benefits like the mortgage interest deduction, but I would say that is nowhere near the benefit that it was years ago because the standard deduction is so high now that over 90% of Americans are taking the standard deduction. So if you are someone that is caught in the middle, do not let that be a selling point because you're likely never going to take advantage of that, okay? So just understand what you're really doing there. Now, this is the key distinction that I want everyone to understand watching this video. Owning a home is a lifestyle investment, all right? This is a lifestyle investment. It is not a financial investment because when you decide to buy a home, what you're investing in is stability, pride of home ownership, and the ability to customize your space and put down roots in a community. And those things have enormous value, but they are not the same as financial returns. Your home cannot be a retirement plan. You should consider buying a house if those things are incredibly valuable to you, or if you plan to live in the same area for at least 10 years, okay? So that you can spread out some of those costs, like closing costs and all of the other phantom costs that you're going to have to pay over those years. You can spread it out over a longer period of time. And if you decide to pull the trigger, make sure that you have a 6-month emergency fund set up after making the down payment. Don't spend your entire life savings on a down payment on a home and you have no emergency fund to speak of, or you have wiped out your 401k in order to do this. I've seen too many people do it, and that will ruin you down the road. Another thing to be very careful about is to make sure that you can truly afford the house, okay? You need to be factoring in more than just a monthly payment that you see on a calculator online. You want to consider all of those costs like taxes. If you're not putting 20% down, you're gonna have PMI insurance to pay for. You're gonna have to have homeowners insurance. And remember the maintenance and repair costs associated with owning the home. That all needs to be 25% of your income, okay? Maybe 30, 31, 32, because the cost of living has gone up so much. Not just the mortgage payment. That's the most important thing I want you to take away there. Something else to consider is to make sure that you are not buying a house that is so expensive that you are foregoing any opportunity to invest in your retirement. So maybe you only want to consider buying a home if you are already maxing out your retirement account and if it's not putting a strain in that category, okay? Because the last thing you want to do is make that 30-year commitment, buy that house, spend all of that money, forego all of those opportunity costs, and then when it's time to retire, all you have is your house and you don't have any income to speak of, which means you're going to be depending on Social Security only, or you're going to have to work much, much longer than you probably want to. So make sure you know that when you buy a house that you are making a lifestyle choice here and that you are almost certainly forfeiting some of your ability to build a lot more wealth. I hope this makes sense, guys. Now, if you're a younger viewer and you are renting and you feel crushed by the fact that most young people cannot afford to buy a house today, hopefully this is a glimmer of light, okay? You can still make it. As a matter of fact, you can do a lot better than you probably think you can right now. But this is the biggest caveat to renting and hoping to build wealth versus just buying a house. You have to have the ability to execute on actually investing, and you're not just spending that difference out on just random stuff in consumer land, okay? So what you must do is make sure that you are a smart renter and that you are designing an environment, basically setting up automatic investments to make sure that you are executing at a high level over a long period of time. That is the biggest caveat, and that is the true reason why so many people love to own a home, because that is forced. You are forced to make that home payment month in, month out for 30 years. You have to be just as diligent with setting up your investments to automatically be invested month in, month out for decades, and it has to be a non-negotiable. That is the biggest caveat, I'm telling you, okay? If you do this successfully, you will have so much wealth that you can actually access and spend in your later years. When you decide to purchase a house, that is the biggest purchase that you will ever make in your entire life. So just make sure you know what you're doing, that you actually run the numbers, and that you think about all of the different nuances at play, okay? And just because you are spending a ton of money on this thing does not make it a good investment. Because here's what nobody tells you, that money can be highly counterintuitive. Typically, when you spend more out in the world, you tend to get more. But in investing, it doesn't work like that. Typically, the opposite is true. So just keep that in mind as you pursue your wealth building journey. Now, you may not agree with everything I said in this video, but if you did find value in it and you're still here, you are my people. Thank you so much for hearing my arguments on this. If you're still here, drop a money bag emoji in the comment section. Tell me how you feel about it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Again, I'm Rashida, and I'm out.